Hello, hello. I don't know why you say goodbye. Say hello. I thought I would come on and hang out. Um, let's see. Am I live? Oh, yes, I am. So this is going to be a tarot card hangout. Let's say psychic news, psychic tarot. How's that sound? Political satire, political tarot. Coffee talk is always good. We like coffee, kofifi, coffee, coffee talk. We'll just call it coffee talk. Coffee talk. Okay, there you go. Now, what should we have for my picture? I'm going to get this on here while people find the stream. Looks like people have already found the stream. I'm going to get a nice picture here. It's got to be something cool. You guys like that picture of me in Matsushima where I was sending good vibes to people? So we'll do the Matsushima pic. Thank you for telling me I looked good. I had full blown COVID when this picture was taken. Yeah. So that's the picture I put up. I've been rather upset about the political news, but maybe if we all out and sing Kumbaya together, we can have something more fun. Coffee talk is where we all get together and we schmooze, we talk politics, we talk arts and literature, we talk royal family. Tarot card, we'll say coffee talk hangout. How's that sound? Yeah. So this is when I've got free time, usually in the mornings. I just finished a great session with a really cool lady. I won't say her name unless she wants to come out and say her name. But we were two nice Jewish girls, ladies, and we had our coffee talk. And we're feeling optimistic about the world. Everything is going to be okay, and everything is going to be okay because people are moving towards the center. You know, I know people are very upset. I'm upset too about Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is leaving. He's a placeholder. All right. If you guys could like and subscribe, that would be awesome. I would really appreciate it. Please join us. We're having a little bit of a coffee, hanging out with me for the next hour or so. Later today at 5 p.m., we'll be getting together for Taco Tuesdays with Chuck Dransfield. We'll be talking about the recent divorce rumors that are coming up with William and Kate. Evidently, now they're doing separate gigs, and I guess they're negotiating. Some stuff is coming out about the divorce. Also, there's some rumors that Meghan and Harry will be attempting to sue William directly. There's also rumors coming out that William's temper has gotten even worse. There's been films of him pointing and screaming at people in public areas. So we'll be covering some of that today. At what point do if somebody is a statesman, say they're a statesman, they're in a position of political power, at what point do you stop protecting the emperor and come out and actually say, hey, everything is not okay? So that's going to be the conversation today at Taco Tuesdays at 5. When do you have to intercede and not prop up bad behavior? I think that'll be a really interesting conversation. Also, we'll be listening to a little bit of the Kiffness music and, of course, doing some great blitzes with all of you. So, should we be afraid of Trump? What's the worst case scenario? The worst case scenario is that Trump is out of control January 6th, and he has his dream of firing squads, right? Is the MAGA party going to let him get away with that? Why is the why are people funding Trump right now? Is it because they're MAGA, or is something else? Who's funding Trump right now? Let's talk about it. Who's funding Trump? We all know who's funding Trump, but the money is not coming from MAGA right now, is it? It's coming from libertarian business people, right? How much power do you think the business people have that are giving all these millions and millions to Trump? How much power does the Silicon millionaire and billionaire have in determining who's going to be the next president? I would argue that they have all the power in the world, and that to some extent, the rest of us don't really have any power at all. We're just being led around. We're being manipulated by propaganda. And when you go into it from an energetic perspective, the businessmen have already made their decision, and they made the decision because they can't do another 4 years of no sanctions. I mean, of sanctions. It's costing them too much money. And so what they've done is they've told themselves a story, and the story is that it'll all work out. We can control. And one of the ways that the tech giants decided to control the situation was bringing in JD Vance, who they felt was a moderate that was going to support the tech industry, trade, etc. But he was also strong on Israel. So we will give you money for your campaign if you let us pick a moderate tech guy who's going to protect business and trade. And that's precisely what we're looking at here. So again, being able to step back and look at who's funding Trump and why. So it's the businessman who wants to engage in and wants to get rid of regulations that are preventing things from being built because there's too much regulation. Like what happened to the subway system in Los Angeles, it got shut down because the regulation, nothing is being built, right? This is the complaint. Regulation to the point where it becomes the enemy of the good, that you, even if you wanted to put up solar panels in California, you can't do it because regulation upon regulation upon regulation, right? So the first thing is they want to remove excessive regulations that are preventing even good work from being done. And the second thing they want to do is they want to remove the sanctions so that they can begin to engage in trade with countries that are currently being sanctioned by the United States. Top of the list being China, Russia, and Iran is coming along for the ride, right? They can afford to isolate Iran because we don't have as much business with Iran as we do with Russia. But the problem with that is that Iran shares trade and has historically always had a close trade relationship with Russia. And so, again, it's this naive feeling like we're going to bring in a tech giant, we're going to bring in JD Vance, we're going to circle the wagons and protect Trump legally, we're going to diminish his powers, we're going to bring in a moderate, we're going to get the trains moving, right? Get the product out, get those trains moving in China, get those trains moving in Russia, get those metals we need, get those parts for our various different trade. And this is the great compromise. This is what we're looking at. And again, I sometimes feel like I'm a broken record saying it over and over and over again. It's always been about money and trade. And there were tech giants like Elon Musk that voted for Biden and said, okay, this is terrible for my business, but Trump's a lunatic, so we're going to have to vote for Biden. But then they went through an additional 4 years of sanctions. And then at that point, after losing billions and billions, they threw up their hands and said, well, we've got to find a third. If you're going to continue to sanction, we need to find another way. And the other way was to take a moderate with this naive belief that they're going to somehow control and renegotiate trade, and that they're somehow in control of everything. Now, what's wrong with that? Number one, this is not how democracy works. So if you're protecting free speech and democracy, one way that you can protect the democracy is not overriding it by having your vote be more powerful than my vote, just because you can put 45 million a month into a campaign. So this is not looking a lot like the democracy that was envisioned by our foreparents, right? The people that wrote the Constitution. Instead, it's wealthy business people negotiating trade, and whoever is going to cost them money has to go, and whoever is going to help them, they will, and then they will lie to themselves. And I think that this is the spiritual lesson. If anybody walks away from lunch, this coffee time, with any spiritual lesson that I would leave you with, it is the lies we tell ourselves. We all tell ourselves lies, don't we? We tell ourselves lies in order to justify bad behavior. Sometimes we do it 100 times a day. These are stories, right? It's just made up stuff. I was married to a storyteller, right? And one of the ways he did terrible things was he would just create stories that sounded good and he could live with that story. And then he would go off and do terrible things because he would create a story that worked for him. And we see this with the tech giants, the wealthy billionaires that are investing in Trump right now. I see this with Asperger's a lot. Asperger's, I sometimes see in this particular condition, Asperger's syndrome, they're highly sensitive people who suffer from Asperger's. Highly sensitive. And so because they're highly sensitive, they can't always handle reality. It takes an extremely strong person to handle reality. Most of us will spin out into a story when things get to be too horrible, right? So one of the things I've seen with people who have Asperger's is they get overstimulated and they get upset really easy, particularly if they see violence or something like that. La 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 la, right? They go off. And I think what we have with this collective push behind Trump to get him elected to end the trade wars is a kind of whitewashing fantasy land, you know? But what do you do about the trade war? What do you do about all the money that's been lost? All of the companies that have gone under? The fact that China is threatening Taiwan right now. What I want to see is what is the official policy of the Republican Party towards Russia and Ukraine in 2024. And what are they going to do about Hezbollah in the north, because Trump's policies put Israel in this situation? If they're not able to acknowledge those two issues, never mind women's rights. We haven't even gotten to women's rights. We're just talking about the horror of Putin and how Putin has completely destroyed. Look, we should not have trade partners that are fascist. Hands down. I think we can all agree that fascist dictators, we should not be financially propping up dictatorships. This, Nazi Germany, we didn't do business, we didn't do trade with Nazi Germany and then tell ourselves, well, it's okay because who are we to, we can't dismantle their government. These are their beliefs. At the point when you invade somebody's country and begin kidnapping children, whether it's Israel or Ukraine, both of which were perpetrated by Russia and Iran, right? So At that point, we don't have somebody we can, it's insane to talk about trade. I'm very sorry you're losing a lot of money. I am. Trade is important. Um, but we don't have a trade partner in Russia, and we don't have a trade partner in Iran. Yeah, I mean, the takeaway here is, do you ever tell yourself stories? What stories do you tell yourself? Stories, stories, stories. Do good people lie to themselves? Have you ever met somebody and thought they had a good heart, but they voted completely different than you? Have you ever had a mentor, a teacher in college or high school that was a conservative, but they were a loving, nice teacher and a mentor to you, but you two didn't agree politically? One of the best spiritual lessons we can have for ourselves is to be able to understand that not everybody that we admire and respect in one area of their life, we necessarily admire and respect in another, right? Um, diversity, diversity training, issues of uh, paying the descendants of slaves. These are things that I support, right? Um, but the opposition could be telling themselves a story, right? Oh, this is not fair. That is not fair. The point is that everybody tells themselves a story. And usually the stories are there to justify our own bad behavior. I'll give you an example. Say, for example, there was some delicious chocolate cake in my kitchen right now. There isn't, but say there was. And I know that I should not be doing carbs. I know I need to reduce gluten because my digestion is not good. But do you think that my brain, once I start to get hungry, what do you think my brain is going to do? What is your brain going to do when that chocolate cake is just sitting there glistening? You just got it from the store. It's sitting in its packaging. It's beautiful icing. Pick whichever your favorite company is. I like Pepperidge Farm, but let's just imagine it's fresh baked and it's sitting there. All right. As the hours go by and you get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier, what stories do you begin to tell yourself to justify? Well, cake isn't just flour, right? There's other things in cake. There's some milk, there's some eggs. That's a protein. What's the protein in a slice of cake? Well, it says here that I'm getting a full 12 grams. Well, okay, well, what's the glycemic index? The glycemic index is 70. Well, that 70 is not 100. And maybe if I had a protein with it, you see what starts to happen? You start to go into the area of wiggle room. We all do this. We all create stories. And then another half hour, you know what? I'm not feeling well and I really shouldn't go without eating. I probably need to eat something. Well, I could remove some of the frosting. That might help. And, I'll have a glass of milk with it. That'll change the glycemic. And you know what? I have a moral and ethical responsibility to eat that cake with a large glass of milk. And if I don't, that would be wrong. So that's an example of somebody just telling themselves a story. And what I see in the GOP is not necessarily that the people are evil. They're not evil, they're human. And this is what humans do. We tell ourselves stories in order to justify our own actions because they benefit us. Just like my in-laws. They didn't want to take care of their aging relatives that were in their 90s, so they just took off. Well, we were nice to you, justifying abandoning their elderly parent. They told themselves stories, right, about leaving some woman, me, unpaid, cleaning up their mess. No, we felt morally righteous about what we did, right? So these are examples, again, of stories. We can even engage in evil acts, trafficking somebody, using another human being. And the way we combobulate stories in order to cover up and even feel righteous. And when that doesn't work, we start to outright bullface lie. And that's the other thing we see in politics, which is that when that doesn't work, people just start lying. They start fiddling with data because what they really want is to have their personal needs met. So first come the stories, and then when, the slow, steady descent, and then comes, bullface lying when that doesn't work. Because the bottom line is that you want it, and you want it for free, and you don't want to pay for it. Right? Whether it's the woman you want to sleep with that she's out of your league, so you'll just lie. You'll tell her you have a job when you don't. You'll make up stories. You'll do anything because you want that and you're going to get that. And then you will start to believe your own lies, right? The guy that can't afford the girl. And so that's a form of, some people have called it a type of soft rape, right? The woman's having an all-out sexual relationship with a man that doesn't exist, right? Everything was a lie. So how does she feel afterwards? She feels like she's been raped, right? This guy had access to intimate parts of her, but the whole entire thing was a lie, right? How is this like politics? It's exactly like politics. That's exactly what's happening to us. It's this slow, seductive coup, and people are getting drunk by all these lies and stories because somebody wants their personal needs met. It's like seduction that borders on rape. If the person had known the truth and had not voted for Brexit, then what have you done? You lied to have your personal needs met so that they would vote for Brexit, knowing full well that Brexit was seriously going to harm people in Britain. But you lied and you seduced and you manipulated so that you could get yours, you could have your money, you could have, I am satisfied, right? I had my needs met, and then the victim is broken and busted, right? So that's what we see happening in politics. And it starts with stories. It starts with people trying to justify bad behavior because they want their personal needs met. And when that doesn't work, the lying starts to happen. And this is what we see in politics all around. Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll do the empath prayer. Good to see you all. We're just doing a little bit of a hangout because I'm between clients, and I was very upset. I was very, very upset. At the same time, I wanted to share that spiritual lesson with people because you may be heartbroken that people you love and care about are voting differently than you. And just remember, we all tell ourselves lies. We all tell ourselves stories, and check in on yourself. Are you lying to yourself because it benefits you, or is this objective reality? And there are very few of us that are reasonable and rational. Most of us are motivated by what is best for us. And most of us vote because we think it's going to be good for us. Often, unfortunately, the poor will vote against their own self-interest, right? But yeah. I think also we have to look at this metaphysically. If you look at the fact that people close up say it was a bullet that grazed the president, they literally could see the bullet graze him. He never moves. He always goes straight. But for some reason, he says he just had an instinct to move. And when he moved at that point, the bullet grazed Trump, right? So what is that doing to his base that believes in Jesus, right? This guy is going to bring Christ, right? Like practically the dove of peace landing on his shoulder, right? These are all to them signs that bolster their own internal belief system. Now, again, I'm not telling you how to think or how to vote. I'm inviting you. I often get misunderstood on this channel, and it's exhausting, to be quite frank with you. HCRV gives us the rare ability to crawl into other people's heads, see the way they look out at the world. Then people unsubscribe because you don't like hearing the voice of that person. But my job as a remote viewer is to give you the voice. And then and if you were smart, instead of arguing with me, you would hear the voice and say, okay, now I've got power. I know how this person thinks. I know how they're compromised, and I can work with that. Instead of arguing with me and missing the point and unsubscribing. Well, I don't like what she said by becoming Elon Musk. Well, I don't like when she became Putin for 6 months. I think you should lie back and enjoy the process of seeing an empath doing demonstrations like this, and take it as a gift that you now can get into the deep, dark thoughts of these people, and now you've got ammo. That's another way, a political ammo, not hurting people, but you've got information, and with information, you've got more power over your choices. And that's why people hire me. They need to know what somebody's up to. They need to know what their enemy's up to. They need to have an open conversation with their enemies and I have no problem doing that for them, because that's why people hire empaths and people who do profiling. Let's do the empath's prayer. And feel free to send me some blitzes. Hi, Joel. Thanks for being here. Okay. I want to call on white light protection for myself and this community as we ask permission from Spirit to access the Akashic records. We call on our spirit guides and our good angels to be with us. Please give us the clarity and the wisdom that is needed to empower all of us on our journeys to make the best decisions for ourselves, our families, the planet, the people we love, but also to help those that we may have strife with. And together, collectively, we say, Amen. Well, I think that they wanted her to dismiss the case, Joel, regarding Cannon, because when she dismissed, in fact, they were kept waiting for her it took her too long to dismiss it. Isn't that right? And so by dismissing it, they can take it to the appellate. Right? So let's see what's going on. See, I keep hearing from Midas, we're going to get him any day now. It doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like Trump is, when is Trump going to be held accountable for his actions? It's frustrating. Guy should be in a psychiatric prison, not running for president. This is ridiculous. We're going to look at the Cannon case and see if anything's going to come of Trump taking a bunch of classified documents and giving it to the enemy. They're not our enemies now, right? This is the argument. He was doing it. It was good. We have to end these trade wars, this animosity with Russia. We have to resume trade. It's so important. People don't even know what the hell they're saying. The gift. Trump gave a gift. They took the key. Here's the car. Here's the key. The power, right? Trump presents as cloudy or confused. That's interesting. That tells me that he's possibly Um, it's almost like they're using him to win an election or the face of the election, but that Republicans really went with a moderate, which was J.D. Vance. He presents as very confused. Watering of the case. Do we want to give up on the case? The final outcome, it's going to another judge. It's going to move very quickly through the appellate. Trump gave a gift. He gave the keys away, made the enemy strong. His mental health confused, didn't totally understand what he's doing. Feeding the garden. Could be another judge or another female, but there's this lady that comes in and then the sun coming out exposed. So my understanding is that J.D. Vance said he would never vote for Trump, that Trump's a criminal, and that he's huge on tech and trade, and that's why, and he was, I believe, Elon Musk's choice. And so to make Elon Musk happy, if you want $45 million a month, you're going to have to bring in a tech guy who's a lot more moderate than Trump. And so and also he was from Ohio, so he's a swing state. There are a lot of reasons. But it was basically a concession for Silicon Valley, based on the New York Times, anyway, article that I read this morning, but who knows? Cheers, everyone. New York Times doesn't always get things right, but that's basically why he was selected. Well, I don't think of J.D. Vance as a moderate, but the Republicans do. Project 2025, interesting. Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me. How does Jack Smith feel at the moment? Let's take a look. Special Counsel Jack Fitt, he feels that people are stealing data, sabotaging. It's just criminal activity, aiding and thieves. They stole. It's an issue of theft for him. They're loyal dogs, right? The writer, yeah, he's running. The writer is to run to a situation. The power is with Jack. And the tree of knowledge. So I would say it's quite auspicious, Jack's cards. My thing is how much can we do if it's official? Isn't he pretty much immune from prosecution now? He can shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue legally. Isn't that the whole point? What's going on with the Supreme Court? Does the Supreme Court protect Trump from prosecution? Let's take a look. Can he be prosecuted at all? It's such an insane ruling from the Supreme Court. I mean, talk about a psych hospital. I don't think of him as a moderate, but J.D. Vance is considered a moderate by Republicans. Well, they've gone so off the deep end. I mean, they've gone so crazy. We can donate to the Biden campaign and we can educate moderates about what's going on. But to be honest, they're so anxious to see the war end and to get back to business and back to trade that this is the energy that I'm trying to convey to Democrats. There are things happening that we need to be aware of, and they are so frustrated about the sanctions. I'm not trying to scare Democrats. I'm trying to get Democrats to wake up. If we want to win this thing, we're going to have to find a way to satisfy business people that we're finding a solution to the problem of sanctions. Otherwise, they're going to jump the ship and in desperation go to Trump, not because they like him, but because they've got to get business up and running again. And that's why people hemmed and hawed. I don't know. I don't want to vote for either of them. I have to vote for somebody. Well, then I'm going to vote based on who's going to help me get my trade out, because I can't do another 4 years. I don't have, my business will go belly up if I go another 4 years of sanctions. Do you employ tens of thousands of people? Are you engaged in research that's going to help people walk who can't walk? No, you don't understand what's on my plate. I've got thousands of people relying on me, thousands of people getting paychecks, feeding families. It's costing us billions annually. We poured a lot into research to try and find ways to get around the sanctions, but we cannot do another 4 years of sanctions. What do you say to somebody like that? They make the tough decision and say, screw it, I'm going with Trump. We can't afford another 4 years. My company can't make it. My company won't make it with another 4 years of sanctions. What are you going to say to that person? So what I'm saying to us Democrats is we need to give them an answer. We need to make sure that they have another answer, because just saying it's not right is not going to help us win an election. We're going to have to renegotiate. I would like to start with Xi. I would like to see us reopening a conversation with China as fast as possible. Yes, I believe that, because Elon Musk went to a breakfast where he met with Trump and refused to endorse. Elon Musk voted for Biden. He's only once voted for a Republican his entire life. This was a big deal. It was something that he slaved over. And then the conclusion was that I can't go another 4 years of sanctions. It was the sanctions that ultimately, also, he felt that people didn't understand taxes, that the money wasn't going to him. Say they have a profit of 45 million or something from a sale of Tesla. He rolls that over into research on Starlink. Then Starlink finally started making a massive profit. So he took all that money and put it into research that hired scientists and researchers and engineers and put millions of people dollars and jobs back to service to humanity. And the money didn't go into his pocket. Everything was, and then that money was rolled over into SpaceX, which is a bottomless pit of billions of dollars. And it's even more of a bottomless pit because he can't get any parts. And so in his genius mind, I'm sorry, sir, if he hears this, but he thought, well, there's a soft coup going on in Iran, moderates inside Iran, as I had said, assassinated the VP, Raisi. We knew 6 months ago they were assassinating him because I did a remote view with Lena Rodriguez. And I also told David Johnson, I went on record, and Linda G, because they know I'm a trained remote viewer. And I went in and I accessed documents that they were tracking Raisi. You can go and ask them. And we knew precisely who the assassins were. And they were moderates inside Iran. And so then we were stuck with an ethical problem. What the hell do we do? So what do I do as the remote viewer if I'm seeing people planning to kill somebody? What do I ethically do? I have to go to other remote viewers and say, I have an ethical issue here. What do I do? So you go to Don Johnson, you go to Linda G, you go to Lena Rodriguez. These are the people I respect, I trust. I have an ethical problem. They're going to take out Raisi. Why are they taking out Raisi? Because he's an extremist who's funding Islamic Brotherhood and pouring money into it, which is creating the problem. So they want to transfer power to the military in Iran and take it away from Khamenei, right? So the CIA helped them. The CIA helped. The CIA was aware of what they were doing. The Israelis were aware of what they were doing, but it wasn't the Israelis. It was the moderates from within Iran that knew that if they didn't begin to backpedal and move towards moderation, that they were that somebody was going to drop an atomic bomb on Tehran. Because I did the math. Do you understand, you guys? I did the math, and then I showed you guys the math. And the only reason why I did that is because you need to understand that the math I'm showing you is the same math. If I've done the math, then they've done the math. I know they've done the math because I sent it to the Israeli War Cabinet in December. Here's the math. Challenge my math. So what does that mean? It means if I got to the 3 phases, they got to the 3 phases. This was December. I did my remote for the this is the IDF War Cabinet, December. So I did the math. I came up with the same 3 phases. Does this mean I wrote the 3 phases? No, this is the math. Everybody came up with the 3 phases probably because everybody was looking at the same math. But the math continues. We cannot negotiate with Russia or do trade as long as Putin is there. That's the math. I ran it through so many damn computer systems. You have no idea. I mean, I no longer talk to the debate coach because we were screaming. So nobody wants to go to World War III. If the computer is saying we're headed towards World War III because the only solution is you got to dismantle Iranian and Russian leadership, that's World War III. This is not what business people who do trade, by the way, it didn't say to dismantle China. Don't do a deal with Raisi. Raisi flew to Saudi Arabia. I said this in December. Raisi is bad news. So what they did was they did a soft coup. They took out Raisi. Took out Raisi in a soft coup, and then they put up 5 people that were exactly like Raisi, knowing full well psychologically nobody would vote for them. They put up a bunch of people that were exactly alike, and then they put in the one guy that was the liberal, that was being backed by the CIA, that was being backed by the moderates, and said, this is an odd little duck. Well, nothing's going to happen to him. Well, the 5 that were all alike canceled each other out, so a few of them dropped out. And then they knew before this started that the liberal was going to win because they set it up that way. So then the liberal wins. So that now the military is stronger, the liberal's stronger, and they're trying to do what's called a soft coup, because if they don't backtrack their hostilities towards the West, we're going to take them out. And they know we're going to take them out because, again, if I've done the math, look at phase 5 of the 5-phase plan. So you can dismantle your leadership, or we will do it for you. The West is not going to sit back and let you, through the Houthi and Hezbollah, take out Israel and attack ships that are leaving out of the Suez Canal. You're on the verge. We are on the verge of World War III. Look at the phases. There's no choice but to take out Iran and with Russia. That's basically World War III, unless you have the wherewithal to do it yourself. You either take them out, or we're going to take them out for you. That's the math. You guys want to talk about it while I drink another cup of coffee? Remote viewing gives you skills that hopefully can keep people from dying, right? This is why we teach the ability to stand back and look at something objectively. Supposedly, Mr. Musk uses this technique, but unfortunately, Mr. Musk is too close to the situation to be able to do objective remote viewing and game theory. This is game theory. This is, you stand back. Musk does this all day long. It's, our brains are similar, but we are on completely opposite sides politically. Um, and I think it's because he's compromised. And I think he's compromised because he's biased. And I think he's biased because he has a personal financial, which I don't, which is why I think that I'm able to be more objective regarding this than he is. Yes, Candescent Moon. If you really want to understand the mind of Elon Musk, and I've done profiles, he doesn't really like wearing fancy clothing. I mean, for state dinners and things like that, they have a clothing allowance, but a lot of the time he's wearing the same T-shirt he slept in. You know, he crashes at these factories, like the one he often will sleep at SpaceX. Um, what drives him, and he can live on ramen for 3 days, right? And need money. He's not really. I know he's motivated, trying to save humanity, and the belief that humanity is a bright candle in the universe, and if we don't become a self-sustaining species that's multi-planetary, that bright light is probably going to go out. And that means we have to be a multi-planetary species. So if a comet were to strike Earth, humanity, some of us would still survive. And so you would theoretically have pods or colonies in other places, as magical as that sounds, because destruction of the earth is probably inevitable. It's not, there are certain things we just probably cannot save the earth. We can't save it's unlikely if we had a direct impact from a comet in the next 50 years, we're not going to be able to stop it. If we have a virus that has 100% mortality, we're dead. The only way you would survive is if you had a colony somewhere else. If another Ebola strikes, all human life would be gone because the mortality rate is 100%. If you have a mega volcano, like, Etna or something like that, you could plunge the earth into darkness and a nuclear winter that would wipe out crops and lead to a mass famine. And it would be questionable how many humans would survive. And that's what happened in the 6th century. So say you are emotionally divergent autistic, and you are an incredibly emotionally sensitive person who wants to keep your mommy from being beaten up and your sister from being raped and every other horrible thing that happened to Mr. Musk, right? And you have a severe head injury, by the way, which I think has impacted his impulse control on top of everything else. So the intention is honorable, and this is what I'm trying to help people with when we look at stories that people tell themselves. Mr. Musk wants to keep humans from going extinct and that bright light from going extinct. And if we stop having children, we're going to go out in a whimper. We're not a big bang, but a whimper and adult diapers, because we stopped having children. They're no longer having children in Italy. People have, well, why? Because of depression, because of poverty, because of feelings of hopelessness. People don't feel like they have a tomorrow, so they've just become depressed. People are becoming isolated. Young men are no longer going out and dating. They're sitting in front of their computers. We see this in Japan with the last of the dying senior women in many towns and villages. And so their homes are now gone. They're widows' houses. You can buy them for $5,000 because entire villages are gone because people became depressed and stopped having children. And so what motivates him is like the cry in the wilderness. We've got to save this species, or this species is going to be gone forever. And so all of that is Very noble. Does that mean that this person doesn't have issues doing terrible, horrible things in other areas? Sure, because this is somebody, if you get into the facets of his mind, it's easy to say somebody's evil. How much intellectual work does it take? Well, he's evil. Putin's evil. Elon Musk is evil, 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 evil. I want a chocolate. Come on, man. Be an intellectual. Really make an effort to try and get into people's heads and understand people. What motivates him is getting to Mars. Now, what is he willing to do to get there? Probably a hell of a lot. Would he lie? Would he steal? Would he cheat? Maybe. Probably yes. Because it's all ultimately for the best, right? In his mind, the story he tells himself. Putting up troll farms with fake Elon Musk on every social media, so that these guys are romance scammers. They're also collecting massive amounts of data on his fans. Tell me why you love Elon Musk, right? He hired this company. I'm 100% convinced. And then they also get people to invest in Doggy Coin, which they short, and then they roll the profits into Bitcoin. Why? Everything's justified when you're trying to save the human species. So you rip off and destroy a few people's lives. So you get a dictator in the White House for 4 years. Anything can be justified because you're saving humanity. You're Noah, and you're going to get everybody on that ark. You're going to save who you can. If you truly believe that the earth is coming to an end in less than 50 years and you're Noah, you're going to justify just about anything. That's the profile I have on this person. The best laid plans of mice and men, right? Hell is paved by good intentions. A man telling himself stories, and they are intellectually quite interesting. These stories are very intellectual, but they're intellectual justifications to do horrible things because he has to get to Mars. So on the one hand, it's a beautiful thing, a young boy who's trying to save everybody, and mommy and the baby and everybody's going to get on there, and we're all going to be safe. It's very noble to fly your plane into a war zone. So this is somebody whose intentions are good. But what he's doing is very bad. And what I learned from him is that I connected spiritually with the good, the intention of this person. That's why he found my thesis. And the spiritual lesson for me is, how am I like him? How am I the person who tells myself stories in order to justify bad behaviors? How can I learn from this person's shadow? How can I examine my own? Am I lying to myself? How can I use my skills as a remote viewer to try and look at things as objectively as possible, and not just in terms of my own self-interest, but in terms of what's best for everybody? Because this individual thinks that's what he's doing. I made a tough decision. I made a tough call, but I cannot go 4 more years of sanctions. Right? So, I've been tweeting, shaking him up remotely. Yes, I've been writing him letters. Please do not do this thing. Look at my math, challenge my math. He has he has very high security clearance, by the way, Mr. Musk. And so if the CIA is doing a soft coup on Iran, and if we're looking at, which is what it appears to be, thank God, is going on, maybe they are going to dismantle them in the next 4 to 6 months, in which case he knows more than I know. I don't know. I don't know. Am I biased? How can I look at the Trump campaign the way people in the Trump campaign look at it? How would you feel if you were a Trump supporter and a bullet went and you believed in Jesus and you believed that abortion was killing babies and that we are engaging in witchcraft, and many of us are, by the way. uh, and this guy has been persecuted and he keeps rising, and a bullet passes him and yet he rises and fights. I mean, I would be thinking that Jesus, this man is the second coming, right? I would think this is the proof I need. This man, the Lord is with him. I would expect a dove to land on his shoulder. Right? So also having the ability to, when you're a remote viewer, and people get annoyed, you get annoyed with the fact that I am an empath who has the ability to sit in the shoes of everyone, including my enemies, and that is what I've been hired to do. So don't get upset at me because I tell you how the enemy thinks and it makes you upset. This is not rational. This is not rational. It is not rational to come to a professional empath remote viewer who tells you precisely how this person thinks. And you say, well, I don't like how he thinks. I'm sorry. That's how he thinks. Yes, that's exactly right. That is precisely how you have to view Elon Musk. The ends justify the means because he's saving humanity. So everything he does is justified because there's no greater cause than saving humans. And so every decision he makes is based on, can I get humans safely to Mars in the event of an emergency? In which case, because I'm thinking in terms of the highest ethos, how do I save us? Then every decision I make is based on the highest ethos. I've seen the math. We've got 50 years. I personally, Elon Musk, it's my responsibility to be the ship's captain and to get these people off to safety. And this is another thing that you will see with Elon Musk when you're doing a profile of Elon Musk. Elon Musk is a ship's captain. Okay. He sees himself as running a ship and to boldly go where no one has gone before, like Odysseus, right? Odysseus is going to go and let me see here. So if you're at Tesla, right? If you're at Tesla and you're working and you want to listen to some good music at Tesla, hold on a second. Usually 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a sea shanty. And the reason you're going to get a sea shanty is because Elon Musk in previous incarnations probably has been a sea's captain, right? So he's boldly going where no man has gone before. He's got to get his. So what do we know about ships' captains? What do we know about ships' captains? We know that they go away to sea for long periods of time and they don't get to be with their woman, right? So what does the sea captain do? So what he does is really interesting. The first thing that the sea captain does is he learns telepathy. He learns to be unbelievably psychic and he engages in tantric sex with his wife. This is stories of him flying to be with his wife. And so this is a man who has learned all about being psychic because his woman is somewhere else and he's stuck at the Tesla place. singing. So they put on the sea shanty.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
I mean, how close do I need to get this thing?
The closer you are, the sexier you sound.
Hey, babe.
Yep.
What's up? Can't get enough of your love, baby.
I'm gonna clip that out. Anytime somebody messages me about it,
If you want my body and you think I'm sexy, come.
So singing sea shanties, singing about being on the high seas.
Put to sea, the name of the ship was a billy of tea. The winds blew up her bow, dipped down below, my billy boys blow. Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
That's one of the songs that he would play over and over again on the floor of the Tesla floor. Why? Because he probably had many lifetimes as a seas captain, off at sea for long periods of time, away from his beloved, listening to these sea shanties and getting really interested in mental fantasies, right? Telepathy, psychic phenomenon, tantra, getting it on energetically with somebody when you're physically not there, right? And then this takes him into telepathy as an actual researcher, and then he puts money into Neuralink. So when you do profiles of this, very close to his mother, strong person, a great influence, he's not the same as what you would get with, say, somebody like Donald Trump. When you do a profile of somebody like Donald Trump, you get somebody who did not have a natural bond with his mother. You have something that's very, very different. You have somebody who really doesn't entirely feel comfortable with women. And it's almost like he objectifies women because women are foreign to him. And that foreignness probably happens because his mother is in hospital for several, I think for a year or more while he's a toddler. And so there's an awkwardness as if he perceives of women as foreign to him. Whereas if you are somebody who's growing up with a beautiful mother who's a fashion model, by the way, they did not have money. She left an abusive home and she could barely get bread into their mouths. But you have a different dynamic, and this is somebody who is not scared of women, feels very comfortable with women. Elon Parody is actually run by one of his kids, and I was arguing that I'm very judgmental of Mr. Musk, and this I had been joking with one of his kids about being a violinist, and I think this was kind of it was put up like the day after we joked about that. So I think it was a bit of a, don't be so hard on my dad, he's a nice guy kind of a thing. So I got a good kick out of that. The point is that we all tell ourselves stories, right? And those stories, depending upon why we tell them, but usually most of us tell these stories in order to justify our own. How is it going to benefit us, right? How is it going to benefit us? But if everybody's dead on board, well, if it goes back to what's the motivation of these two people. The motivation of one is by the way, both of them have the same dynamic. If you look at the dynamic between these two men, they do have similar aspects. They both had horrible fathers. The difference is that Elon was very loved and supported. He knows what it is to be loved by a comforting, kind woman, and to have that bond and to know what it is to be loved. Sadly, Trump doesn't have that. The other thing I would say is that when you go into a profile of these two individuals, they both use humor as a way of minimizing and trivializing the severity of the harm they do, right? Musk AOC, like the parody on AOC. Why? Because his dad has a crush on AOC, right? Saxon is the eldest, and then Robert's his godson. So he jokes about the fact that even though he doesn't agree politically with AOC, he's really got a bad crush on AOC. So they joke about it. You know, if AOC was single, Elon Musk would still take her to dinner, right? So that's very different dynamic. At the same time, both people have even though the core dynamic is different, the potential to do damage is the same because that's my point, because it's not about whether or not whether someone's a psychopath versus a narcissist. They both, by the way, are losers in their minds. The difference is that Trump doesn't want to admit he's a loser, whereas Elon Musk daily says he feels like a loser, right? So they do have similar aspects in that from that perspective as well. If you're asking me just as somebody who's a professional profiler, what facets I found were different between these two men. I don't think it would bother Trump if women are being raped and killed. It would be unpleasant, and he probably wouldn't want to look at it. But I doubt he would do anything about it. The other person, Elon Musk, if he sat there watching kids being bombed, it would get to the point where he would lose impulse control. He would order the pilot into the plane, and he would go into the plane to get the kids, to get the babies out, to get the women who are being. So again, different motivations. When you know your enemy's motivation, or when you know anyone's motivation, it gives you power to work with them. Just like if you were trying to have a conversation with Elon Musk and you were trying to get him to stop funding the Trump presidency, you would say, "Sir, with all due respect, I don't think this is going to get us to Mars faster. And let me tell you why." Right? So part of the gift of remote viewing is it teaches us how to get in and understand what motivates another human being so that we can talk to them. But just assuming somebody's evil, you're not going to get very far in life. It's easy to say somebody's evil. It's much harder to really try and get into their head, see how they're a lot like you. I mean, there's a lot of ways in which Elon Musk is like me, and I'm not totally happy about that. I'm extremely temperamental. I can be unbelievably cruel. I'm highly emotional. I'm incredibly irrational. I became irrational. I flew into a war zone. You know, these are two people, if you look at Elon Musk and Whimsy Anderson, Dr. Anderson, these are two people who have similar psychological facets. We hated our father. We love our mother. We both got breastfed, right? You know, both went into the wars. There's certain things that are uniting these two personalities, both creative. Our religion is curiosity. We're both whimsical comedians. They call him a whimsical comedian. My name is Whimsy. I'm a comedian, right? So there are certain facets between me and this individual who's become something of a mentor. But that doesn't mean we come to the same conclusions. At the same time, just because we have the same, just because we don't agree on certain things, right, doesn't mean he's evil, because I see facets of myself. We are very similar, myself and this individual. He is a much more successful version of me, right? He's a lot like me, a much more successful version of me. And the dark part of him that I see in myself, see, I'm learning from him because I see myself in him. Yes, I tell myself stories. I lie to myself in order to justify bad behavior. Who am I hurting right now? Who have I hurt? Who, jokes I tell that really hurt people, and but it was just a joke. My sexism, right? Challenging my sexism, right? So the people who remind us of ourselves, the people who come into our lives because we resonate, he and I resonate clearly on the same vibration because we connected. He ordered in his I want to rebuild, I wrote the rebuild he wanted, right? So click, we connected, right? I want telepathy. I want to, two people that are interested in telepathy, two people who got tested. I got tested very high IQ as a kid, right? So I see in my mentor myself, right? I see the dark and I see the light. And anytime you have a mentor or a teacher, you're going to see the positive, but you're also going to see the darkness, ways I lie to myself, ways in which I seduce and manipulate in order to have my personal needs met at the expense of other people. And we all have a shadow. We all have a shadow, but are we willing to look at it? And this is why I appreciate Mr. Musk being a mentor and being somebody that rescued my thesis, which is now reality, right? What he did for me. And then the thesis got published at Berkeley, and then the thesis got published at the UN Council on Conflict Resolution. All of that was because of Mr. Musk. So I have great respect, being taken seriously by the IDF to the extent that I've been taken seriously. That is a gift that I received from Mr. Musk. He lifted me up and raised me as an academic. And I'm a woman. And he did it to a woman. There was no sexism. There was no, a little girly girl wrote that. No, this is the right thesis. Do this. She's right. This is perfect. Do this. So I never experienced any of the sexism that other people are talking about with Elon Musk. He simply looked at my data and said, this is the correct data. And so that was how I found my mentor. But I don't want people to think that I agree with him politically, because I'm opposed to him 90% on, maybe even more politically. I understand that he puts his money into research, and for that reason, we should give him a tax break, because Neuralink is serving humanity, and Starlink, these serve humanity. At the same time, he still has to pay his taxes, just like I have to pay my taxes. I don't agree with him on that. Anything else you guys want to talk about today? Do you guys want to talk a little bit about the royals? And have you heard about these divorce rumors? It's rather depressing. I never like to hear that people are. I feel like we've talked enough about my mentor is my mentor because he and I share the same soul consciousness. Clearly, should I be ashamed that he and I are pretty much the same energy? No, I learn from that. I want to see my shadow. I want to see my darkness. I want to see how I lie to myself, how I seduce and flirt to have my personal needs met. Just because somebody is your guru, your teacher, your mentor, it doesn't mean that it's all popsicles and ice cream. And I think a lot of the time people, when they see some imperfection or blemish in their mentor, they walk out the door. Well, you've missed the whole point. The blemish exists inside you as well. No one's perfect, right? No, that was debunked, Melinda. That's a common thing. He was ordered by the United States, because he has security clearance, to turn it off in Russia. And Crimea was Russia at that point. And so they ordered him to turn it back on in Crimea. So that was debunked. I looked into a few places to check that, and that was disproven. He didn't do that. He was following orders, and he said, but if we do that, we'll take out Crimea. And he had to do it. And then they ordered him to turn back. He's like, what do you want from me? So then they made him turn it back in Crimea. So that was the debate. And then it got published as fact that he had turned it off in Ukraine. So he doesn't want children to die. Again, let's go back to his personality. He doesn't want children in Gaza to die. Nothing to him is more precious than a child. He wants to make babies. He has no problem telling you he wants to make babies with you. There's new procedures if you're over 61. We can still get, that we can still get eggs from a 61-year-old woman by feeding the stem cells. You simply extract the stem cells from the ovaries of a senior woman, and then you feed it in a nutrition, and then they grow the ovaries outside and then a senior woman can have babies until she's like ready to die, right? So this is somebody that wants to travel the world making he loves babies. He wants to be surrounded with babies, right? So again, what motivates him is going to be anything that's going to be, so that he can have more babies, take more babies to Mars. You got to know what motivates people, right? So he wants to get to peace in Gaza because he doesn't want any more children to die. But it's naive. It's naive because who wants war to end? Look, I've been wrong in the past because I don't really read the future so much as I read human choices and human free thought. But what I have always said is that if Putin invades Ukraine and does what he wants to do, then the West will march on Moscow. And that looks to be what's happening. Yeah, it's very unfortunate. Yeah, I actually, I like these sea shanty songs, why do we work so hard? That's one of the ones that I gave to Mr. Musk. You guys want to see? You want to see some of the stuff I gave to Tesla? Was it the Tesla? Well, if you're working in a factory and you want to have like, I thought so. Periodically, I'll share with the Tesla team. And with Mr. Musk, I'll say, we'll end on a good song that Mr. Musk and his team will. I think they've already heard it. This is a Musk song. Okay, so yeah, I sent that to my mentor a couple of months ago. I thought that he and they would like listening to that on the Tesla floor. It's the kind of music they like to listen to, and I like, wanting to be rich and working all the time. Those are the things I think about, that, he would find that entertaining. So, Musk may have good intentions, but the solving of intention is not good for him or anyone that he wants to do. Is this what's being said on Musk? Yeah, I mean, it's a weird relationship, because it's really hard to get a job working for him because everybody wants to work for him. It's easier to get into Harvard. So then to say, well, I don't want to work for Musk because it's really hard to work for Musk. The whole reason that people are there because they really want to get to Mars, and oh my God, I get to go to work every day and build spaceships. So he hires people that are just like him, that have been dreaming of these things their whole lives. And people have left saying, I work 20 hours a day, and then they come crawling back. I had a regular job. I was bored. I want to build spaceships, again, this is somebody who is driven by things that are different than Trump. What we learn from being, sophisticated, what we learn from being remote viewers, is that nobody perceives of themselves as evil. Quite the opposite. People are always self-grandiose. I mean, Putin has done horrible things, and yet he thinks that he is the bright light of the Russian Orthodox Church, that he's going to shine the light of Moscow on the four corners of the earth. He's got messianic delusions. And so I think what I took away as a remote viewer from remote viewing all of these people is that there's a lesson to be learned for all of us. And that is that we all lie to ourselves in order to justify our narrative, and to be open to challenging our beliefs, because that's how we become better. And ask ourselves all the time, what stories have I been telling myself? And yeah, I think that's a good way to view the world, and not just to dismiss people as evil. Certainly we can do evil things, but it's often done while people, when people make up stories that they are doing only good. It was Dillinger that got shot, and his last note was, I am a sweet man who would never hurt anyone. And he had murdered all kinds of people. So, yeah, denial, storytelling. These are spiritual lessons. Am I looking at my situation objectively? Am I really looking at it from the perspective of my enemies? Have I been inconsiderate, self-absorbed? Absolutely. Narcissistic, 100%. Wrapped up in my work too much? Yep. Inconsiderate of the feelings of other people? Yep. Rude, hostile, temperamental? Yep. Thinks everybody else is stupid? Oh God, here we go. I see my shadow in this person. Yeah. All right, you guys, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to go get some lunch. Tonight at Taco Tuesday, like I said, it's going to be fun. We're going to be talking about a lot of royal news, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about some of the international stuff that's going on. It should be interesting. No movie review this week on Taco Tuesdays, unfortunately. All right, we'll see you at 5:00 tonight with Chuck Dransfield. Be kind to all, so that all will be kind to you too. If you're trying to get in for a tarot reading or medical consultation with me, all the information is below. God bless, and we'll see you next time. Be well. Bye.